Good morning, everybody. We're going to get started. Welcome to day 7 of Doc NYC. Only one more after this. My name is Tom Powers. I'm the artistic director of the festival. Want to say some thank yous to our leadership sponsor, HBO Documentary Films, our major sponsors, A&E Indie Films, and Netflix. Our supporting sponsor, Sundance Now Doc Club, our leading media sponsors, New York Magazine and WNET, and as always, a huge thanks to the Doc NYC staff and volunteers. Also want to thank SVA's social documentary program, MFA program, where I teach, for sponsoring this morning's bagels and coffee. So each morning for our Doc NYC Pro conference, we start off with a speaker for what we call our morning manifesto. This is our efforts to find someone that we think has a lot to offer, and in a kind of lightning round of a half hour of questions, extract as much as we can from their experience. So our guest this morning is Justine Nagan. She spent many years at Kartemquin Films, the esteemed Chicago production company that's home to Steve James, Kartemquin, and so many other filmmakers. We've shown a lot of films from Kartemquin at Doc NYC over the years. And some very exciting news that got announced a few months ago is that Justine has just moved to New York City to take over as head of POV, the terrific PBS strand, yes. We're really pleased to have her. She was experiencing her first New York apartment nightmare story last night. More to come. So today, the day's theme for our panels is reaching your audience. And in the half hour we have today, I want to use the time to kind of ask two sectors of questions. One, I want to draw upon Justine's experience at Kartemquin and the things they did to reach audiences. And then I want to talk a little bit about POV. She's barely got her foot in the door there, but I'd like to hear any ideas that she has for where POV is headed. Justine, let's start with Kartemquin. To talk about, maybe for people who aren't familiar with Kartemquin, talk about its unusual role as a production company.
Absolutely. So, good morning, everybody. Thank you for putting down your bagels and coming in to talk with us about documentary. It's really great to see you. Thanks, Tom, for having me. So, Kartemquin is a 49-year-old documentary production company and media arts nonprofit located in Chicago. There really is no other place like it. It started as a collective, kind of a feminist collective, and over the years evolved. It was part for-profit, part nonprofit, and then around the time of Hoop Dreams, the organization began transitioning fully to be a not-for-profit, and we have been for many years. We work with independent documentary filmmakers of all shapes and stripes, emerging and veteran. Tom mentioned Steve James. He's definitely our most well-known filmmaker, to get their films made and out to the world. And then, years after the films are done, when they've moved on to their next project, Kartemquin still works to make sure the films are in use in the communities that need them and by general audiences. So Kartemquin provides every kind of support imaginable, basically, other than financial support at this point. Technical, production support, legal support, moral support, emotional support, all of that along the filmmaker journey.
So you mentioned, about getting your films to the communities that need them, and that's an interesting way to think about it, because often in documentary filmmaking or any filmmaking, we're thinking about kind of larger distribution, getting your film onto a TV network or into a movie theater, which is undoubtedly important, or these days getting your film onto a digital platform, and that's undoubtedly crucial to the life of a film. But I feel like it's a completely different effort sometimes to get it into targeted communities that may not be tracked into those things as much.
Absolutely. So, at Kartemquin, one of the things we would do, and still do, I'm getting used to the we, they, did, do vernacular. But anyway, one of the things at Kartemquin that we do is work with filmmakers really early to talk about who is the audience for their film. We assume that we're going to try to get a very broad general audience as well, but we also want that really deep reach. So thinking about, are there groups, are there individuals for a given film or given film topic that could really use the film every day in their work. And some, many Kartemquin films are issue-oriented and many heavy topics, from genetic testing to stem cell research to death penalty. But I did a film on typography, and there's been some other films over the years. Gollop Sparrow is another film we did about an artist. So even for those films that may not have, a traditional issue audience, really thinking about who are the individuals who would gravitate or benefit more and might not, see it in kind of a general audience medium. So really talking to filmmakers early about who that audience is and then helping them make a plan to reach them.
So, from the standpoint of filmmaker, our audience is composed largely of filmmakers, what should they be thinking about in terms of reaching their audience, and when do they need to start thinking about it?
Right away. I think it's really important, some of the things that we talk to filmmakers about, do your research early on in your film, think broadly about the themes and topics, and not only kind of the obvious ones that a film may engender, but both the ones that excite the filmmaker. Is there a particular audience that you think would benefit that is not the usual suspects? And then, really thinking about what are ways to kind of reach them that are DIY and low cost, right? So a lot of filmmakers are pouring every cent and all their energy into making the film, and a lot of times thinking about audience early is really tough. But there are some ways, doing your research early, building an advisory board a lot of times, especially if it's an issue-based film, asking people, they don't have to do much, but would they watch a few cuts? Would they, answer a phone call if you have a tricky question about a subject or your subject matter? So really working with filmmakers early to think about who are people that can be allies and advocates and sounding boards for your project.
Can you give me any examples of film team at Kartemquin and that successfully did something to target audience, whether it was a special screening or a whole campaign?
Sure. So almost all of the films at Kartemquin have some, now we call them civic engagement campaigns. Back in the day they were outreach. Kartemquin's always done it in some way. Called it different things over the years. But yeah, you take a film like In the Family, which was a film actually that Kartemquin did with POV, that Joanna Rudnick was a young filmmaker who tested positive for the BRCA gene mutation, breast and ovarian cancer gene mutation. And she was in her young, low 30s, I think, and wanted to get married and have a family. And so she was making decisions about whether or not to remove her breast of ovaries to lower her chance of getting cancer while trying to date and find a life partner. And so it's a personal film. Part of Kartemquin's journey with her was the emotional journey of making a film like that. But also, again, thinking about who are the people and organizations to partner with. So she immediately, and she had already done a lot of research, and she was a kind of a, a trusted voice because she had the gene herself. But she partnered with Force, which is a group of women across the country and I think across the world that have the gene and are dealing with that, kind of those decisions every day. And through them, got to know a much broader, section of the population that there were nonprofit organizations, leading researchers. We had 2 leading cancer researchers on her advisory board, and they were very, very helpful with the film, not only giving advice, but kind of telling the academic community that this filmmaker was legit, and should be trusted, and to take her film seriously, which really helped us down the road. And that film went on, we still get stories from women who watch that film and make very grave decisions about their bodies based on that film. So that was part of it. More recently, another part of the film It was just used recently by the ACLU in a Supreme Court case that was won. It's amazing. We so rarely win. About genetic testing and gene patenting. And Joanna, in the course of the film, interviewed the founder of this company called Myriad Genetics. And he was not doing any interviews at that time, but she was an attractive young woman, and basically I think that he didn't take her seriously as a journalist and agreed to the interview. And she asked really tough questions and caught him off guard and got an amazing interview that was then used by the ACLU, which was a later partner in the game. But yeah, that film had an initial campaign that just snowballed over time and had impact, far beyond what we initially imagined.
A few years ago, I started telling my students that you need 3 tools to make a film. Used to be you needed a camera and an aiming system, and I think the 3rd tool that everyone needs now is a database. To keep track of their audience, to engage with people for both funding your films and for getting out there. Once you have your database, then there's a set of tools that you can use. So you can email people, you can use Facebook or other social media, and I think people are always trying to gauge, how can I do this most effective? Like, am I emailing people too much? Am I emailing too little? What should be in that email? I wonder what have been some of your favorite tools or approaches to, once you've got your collection of people who have said, yes, I'm interested in your film, how do you use those people?
Right, so a few things, and you can add to your list crowdfunding now, because it's a way that a lot of filmmakers are building that mailing list early and getting people invested in their films. But yeah, we encourage filmmakers to use all those tools and really think about, again, the resources they have, who's on their team. Hopefully they aren't completely solo, and if they are, then we work them through that to try to get them some help. But who on their team can actually manage that and be a voice for the film and figure out how often should we be engaging this audience, what is the messaging around it. And then, back to my earlier point about organizations, if you can get organizations to buy into your project in a real way early on, they have wonderful mailing lists. So the only feature film I directed before I was the executive director at Kartemquin was a small film called Typeface. And I worked for a really long time to engage 2 of the national design organizations. And it took many years. It probably took 2.5 years to get them on board.
And talk about what that meant. What did it mean to have them on board, and how did you use them?
Right. So so to get them on board was many emails, sending clips. Going back to the advisors, using names of people who were supporting the film to prove that it was legit and prove that it meant something, and that so and so who had merit thinks that it would have an audience. Then Helvetica came out, and that was a huge moral quandary for me, and I felt at first completely devastated, and then felt I had an email on my bulletin board for a long time that was circled from my friend Brendan being like, it's a totally different film, like you need to use this as a way to say there's an audience for this film, like ride his coattails, don't go into a hole.
But it's a great example because I think these days almost any filmmaker, no matter what the topic, is going to face that moment of another film kind of overlapping their territory.
Right, exactly. So I carried on, and part of why I bring up Typeface, because it was a very small film, was that we had no money. And it is a tiny little film. But we were able to get, after so many emails, many calls, just staying on top of this relationship, we were able to finally get them to say, it was almost when the film was done, that they would come on, they would put their name on the project, and what they agreed to do was put it out to their mailing list. Which, for me, that was priceless. Basically, they funded, they didn't fund, but by them putting it out to their mailing list, it was my distribution. It was my.
And what were they putting out there? Was it
was
this when the film was on DVD or available by digital download, or?
Even before that. We had just, I think it had been at it wasn't a festival film, I think it had played at a handful of festivals. We knew that there were hungry people for it. And so they said, there's this film, here's a link, and I can't remember what the language was, but it was basically like, if your local chapter is interested in screening it, reach out. we showed in, I don't know, 80 cities or something across the country, and those graphic design groups, they would come to theaters like this and rent it out and show it. And by that
So that was, so revenue came out of that for the film?
revenue came out of it, and it also then turned into screenings at universities, and then it got, because we did all that and got attention, then we were able to get a distributor and DVD, I mean, it just, that email was so instrumental in that film, both having revenue to continue going, but also to, having a very broad international audience that continues today, and all it cost me was time.
Let me switch to POV. You mentioned before that Kartemquin has had won probably more films on POV over the years, so obviously it was an organization that you had a relationship with. Tell me what you think of POV in the documentary ecosystem.
Sure. It's a question that I thought a lot about when I was applying for the job, and I was leaving a job that I loved, and really thinking about how can I continue to play a part and be influential in a field that I love and that is changing really rapidly. And this just seemed like an amazing opportunity. POV, I knew the team, I knew that they are some of the best in the business, they really know their stuff, and they're passionate and loyal and committed. I think it's a really interesting time in public broadcasting and public media, and I think that part of what attracted me, I think, was the challenge of talking about why public media is important, why there are certain films that should be available for free, not behind a paywall, across the country, not just in urban centers, but little, hamlets and small towns, for free, in their living room, and be able to connect with viewers where they're at, not at a festival, and again, not behind a paywall. So that challenge is real. I think, public radio, we talk a lot about public radio is, I think they've made a lot of headway in reaching kind of a newer, younger audience. I think public television is really working on that, but I think they're still trying to figure it out, and I think POV can be part of the solution to that. I think the kind of films that we do have the ability to go across generations and attract and engage younger audiences who are really looking for authentic stories and ways to kind of engage in the world around them.
For people who don't track POV closely, can you give an example of some of the films that you the Strand put on this past season?
So last season we had Art and Craft, we had Cutie and the Boxer, we had Return to Homs, we had Out in the Night, so a lot of films that, very different films first of all, but films that are edgy and top quality and have a dedicated filmmaker and filmmaking team behind them and committed to putting them out to the public.
Can you share with us any ideas that you've had bubbling about what to do with POV?
I mean, I think one of the things I've been wrestling with is how do we help filmmakers understand all the other things that POV does, currently provides filmmakers outside from just the broadcast and can provide in the future. Because we can't compete financially with some of the cable networks, and I should say, we are all needed in the ecosystem. Like, it can't just be public television. Like, to support a thriving documentary community, like, all hands on deck are needed. But to my earlier point, it's really important for us to make a case, both for independent documentary on public media, but then also make a case for public media, that we do get top quality films. Like, that is really important. So trying to understand how do we continue to make the case for filmmakers that even if we can't compete financially, that we provide a lot of other support, from community engagement support, digital support. Our name opens a lot of doors, and then also that commitment to reaching millions of people across the country.
So talking about that, community support and digital support, I wonder if you can give any, concrete examples tied to specific films of ways in which you've really seen that work well at POV.
Sure, and I'm learning more about it every day. So, I mean, POV is one of the things they're known for, their community engagement team. is amazing, and has been doing it for many, many years. So that earlier transition of language from outreach to student engagement. I mean, POV was doing it even before the outreach period. They've been doing it a really long time. And I think what's been great for me to learn about is, a lot of times filmmakers are exhausted when the film's done. And this push that both the industry and the funders in the world is putting on every film to say you must have an engagement campaign, you must have a strategy for impact, and filmmakers are having a hard time navigate that. Some of the filmmakers, it comes naturally to them, and other filmmakers are not as interested or not as capable. And so what POV does for all of their films, wherever the filmmaker is on that spectrum, helps them figure out how are you going to get this film to those audiences we talked about before. So one example, we're in the middle of, we're starting, I guess I should say, to curate our next season, and there are some films about the criminal justice system in the pipeline as possible films for the season. And as we were talking about community engagement possibilities for those films, just hearing that department talk about their connections to different jails and prisons. They have a whole network of ways in to get these films shown in jails and prisons, in law schools, in other teaching facilities, police union. I mean, across the board, because POV has been doing it for so long, they have that network in place, so the filmmaker doesn't have to build it from scratch.
And where do you think the films that have been POV seem to me, as an outsider, have a lot of different means of distribution. So a film like Art and Craft, I believe, had a small theatrical run maybe before it was on POV, and I think not long after it was on POV, or it was available for digital download. Today there are so many different opportunities for films to reach audiences, with the digital platforms, really rising as an important piece. Where's POV gonna fit into the life of a film that way?
That's the $1 million question. I think it's a real challenge that we're gonna face in the coming years. We were just talking about it in the meeting yesterday. Right now, at this given moment, broadcast for many people in this country is still very important. Watching things either on their television at the time it's aired, or TiVoing it or DVRing it and watching it physically on their television at another time. But we know for a lot of the country that is not the case. They're watching it either on their phone or on their another device, right? They're engaging with it digitally, and the challenges for filmmakers. You need to be able to, most of the time, you hold on to as many rights as you can, or you work with a distributor that you think is going to exploit those rights to help. You need that revenue, you need that income. And in this moment where people, the revenue model is still unclear, it's especially important, I think. Filmmakers are feeling the need to either hold on to those rights themselves and find a distributor who's going to maximize their digital potential, or go with an all-rights deal where all the boxes will be checked, right? For a broadcaster and for POV, it's important that we are not just on TV, and increasingly that's going to be the case. And so the challenge for the organization, and I think for many other strands, is going to figure out how do you meet in the middle to reach audiences through digital channels, but you also understand that filmmakers have to be able to monetize those rights themselves. And it's going to be a dance. I don't think it's going to be answered overnight, and it's something that we're definitely paying attention to and talking about.
Well, we're very happy that you're at the helm of this important organization. We hope to see you back at Doc NYC in future years. We really appreciate you coming out this morning to share your thoughts with us. So thanks to Justine Nagan.
Thanks so much.
We're going to take a few minute break.